My head's not.
So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dora. I'm one of the organizers of CareShare. We started this project almost 4 years ago, and thank you so much for those of you who keep following us. I see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for being back again. And if you're joining us for the first time, I just want to say a couple words about what we generally do. We focus on introducing Jewish communities from all over the world. We learn about history, culture, the present day situation, and how Jews live in different continents, different cities, different countries. And this is what we normally do. We are very glad to be working regularly with the Together Plan, who are a charity based in the UK and in Belarus, who work on reviving the Jewish community of Belarus and also in the wider former Soviet Union. They will introduce themselves much more in detail. They have given us already several talks about the Jews of Belarus, so we learned through them and with them about the history, about the heritage, and also about the present day. And today they're going to introduce to us a very, very big project that they have been working on, and it's super important these days, and they want to raise awareness about it. So I will pass on the word now to Deborah Brunner, who is joining us from the UK, from London, who is one of the founders of the Together Plan. And I'm also very happy to welcome Artur Lifshitz, who is joining us from Minsk, who is the other founder of the Together Plan, and they are going to share much more detail about this project that they are embarking on, or they are doing, and they are embarking on sharing with us. So, Deborah, you still have the...
I'm dealing with it.
boxes, but other than that, it should work well, hopefully.
Hopefully. Let me just...
And as always, if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat, and we will have time at the end of the session in about an hour from now for Q&A.
Okay, hold on a minute. Doesn't want to share it. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Hold on.
Yeah.
Done. Okay, go back. Hold on. Apologies. Hopefully this will now work. Okay, we're going backwards, but there you go. Right, hold on. Okay, hello everybody, and thank you very much for that very lovely introduction, Dora, and welcome to our talk, Restoring Legacy, Reclaiming the Brest Litovsk Jewish Cemetery. So I'm just going to introduce you a little bit to the Together Plan, because some of you may know us, but for some of you, we may be new. So as Dora said, my name is Deborah Brunner, and I'm based in the UK, and Artur Lifshitz is in Minsk. We are the co-founders of the charity, and we have been a charity or a non-profit since 2013. So we're a 10-year-old non-profit. So the focus of our work is Belarus, but we are established to work in the whole of the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. We promote community capacity building through research, exploration, cultural events and dialogue, helping Jewish communities discover what can be achieved collectively. And we work alongside community members on the ground in Belarus to develop skills and knowledge while providing the necessary training to build a sustainable future. Sustainability is very much key to the work that we do. And along the bottom, you can see we've got the Together Plan on the left. Dialogue is our partner organization, along with the Religious Jewish Union of Belarus within the country. And Jewish Tapestry Project is the name of our...
Could you speak more slowly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Problem.
You're kind of rushing through.
No problem. Jewish Tapestry Project is the name of our partner organization in the United States. As you can see, we're all branded the same. So this is the Together Plan family. So the work that we do, we work through, everything we do is through the following areas. So we are creating a route, a Belarusian Jewish cultural heritage route. We're building that at the moment. we create audio tours, and we have 5 audio tours already made, and the community members in Belarus work with us to create those. We're working on significant preservation projects, and the Brest Cemetery is the one we're going to be telling you about this evening or this morning, wherever you are. We do archival research. We help people to locate their ancestral records in the Belarus archives. We publish books, so we translate books that really would have never seen the light. So we're translating them and publishing them. 2 of our books so far have been on the Minsk ghetto, and we have 3 more books in production at the moment. We educate, we have an education program about the hidden Jewish history of Belarus that focuses on the Holocaust. It's called Making History Together, that program. And we send, there's our exhibition that goes with that program. And we send humanitarian aid and resources by lorry. Resources and donations are collected in the UK and are sent by road to Belarus and are distributed to the communities, Jewish and non-Jewish, in Belarus. So we're making significant strides in preserving and sharing the rich history of the Belarusian Jewish community. And in doing so, we're not only honoring the past, but we're also laying the foundation for a more connected and resilient future. At the bottom of the screen, you can see it says European Jewish Heritage. We are a member of that organization. It's called the AEPJ, European Association for the Preservation and Promotion of Jewish Heritage and Culture. They are based in Barcelona. And they are a network of heritage practitioners, historians, museums, non-profits, all working. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Right.
I just want to ask maybe everyone to mute themselves. I was trying to mute participants and I accidentally muted you.
No problem.
Apologies.
That's all right. So the AEPJ are building the European route of Jewish heritage, which is one of the cultural routes of the Council of Europe. And there are 47 routes of the Council of Europe, which can be found if you just Google the Council of Europe's Cultural Routes Programme. And one of them is the European route of Jewish heritage. And within that route, we are building the Belarusian heritage route. So we're going to talk to you now today about this significant campaign that we've been working on, which is in Brest, Litovsk. To the more Orthodox communities, it is very well known as the Brisk community or the Brisk Cemetery. The cemetery is currently can't be recognized as a cemetery. It has no headstones, it has no markers, and we're going to explain to you how this project came about and how the cemetery was destroyed, and the significance of this project to Belarus, to the Jewish communities in Belarus, but also to the wider Jewish world, to the diaspora. So we're going to look now at pre-war Brest and the pre-war Brest Jewish community. So here, it says Brest Litovsk, or Brisk, as it would have been known to the Jewish communities back in the day, pre-war. So here on the left, you can see Gymnasium in Brest. This is a Jewish school. And here is the Beitar, the Zionist group Beitar. It's the parade on Lag BaOmer in 1930. Here you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it says Tarbat, and it's in Hebrew, it says Tarbat. It's the Tarbat school. Here you can see a geography class at a Jewish youth club in Brest. These are the members of the Polei Zion and Chechalutz in Brest-Litovsk in 1924. It does say 1924 at the bottom of the photograph. These were Zionist groups, people who would have grown up in during the Russian Revolution and post-revolution and First World War. There would have been there were pogroms, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about that. But there were terrible, brutal pogroms, really from 1881 through to 1905, 1906, 1903 to 1906, and then again in the 1920s. And these people this was the backdrop to the rise of Zionism and people wanting to leave. And so this is one of the many Zionist groups. And here, the Pole Zion group in Brest in 1930. This is a very interesting photograph. This is a picture here of a very young Menachem Begin with Zev Jabotinsky, with his Beitar Zionists, the people in the uniforms that you can see. This photograph was taken in 1931. We know that those uniforms were brown. And here there is a lady called Fanya Grimberg. She was a pharmacist. Her husband Solomon built a pharmacy building, and they're standing behind this building, which we're going to see in a minute. And she was a very good friend of the Begin family. These were revisionist Zionists, people who were militant Zionists, people who were ready to fight for their freedom against all of the oppression and the brutality that they had faced, and which is why they were in uniforms. And this is the pharmacy building. This is a recent photograph that was taken last year. But the building was built in 1925, and there's a significance to this building, which we'll come back to. But that photograph was taken behind the building. It was built as a dwelling house above. So the Greinberg family were living above, and down here it was the pharmacy where Fanya was working as the pharmacist. And and as you can see, it's still a pharmacy, and it's Fanya and her husband and son were three of the few survivors of the community of around 26,000 Jews who were killed in the Second World War during the Holocaust in Brest. Now we're going to take you to see a few of the Jewish sites, none of which are marked, apart from one, which you will see. So through our research, we have identified buildings that are of Jewish significance, and in the fullness of time, we hope that we will be able to put plaques on some of these buildings, but that is the future. As you can see on the right, we created a collection which is now on Europeana, which if you put that into the internet, you will find that is a digital cultural heritage platform that was funded by the European Union. And we now have a collection of images of Jewish Belarus. So in the 1920s, this was the house of Jewish construction entrepreneur Moses Jaglom. The building housed the Jewish Health Society and the gym of the Tarbat Jewish Gymnasium, the Jewish school. In 1924, the Hebrew high school Tarbat was established in Brest. And we know from the Brest-Litovsk Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora, this book that you can see on the right, that the high school had a library with over 1,000 books, almost all in Hebrew. And in its reading room were Hebrew and Yiddish periodicals. And next to the library, there were evening courses and lectures. It was a very vibrant Jewish community. It had a student council that occasionally put out their own newspaper called Zohar. And this book can be bought on the internet. And here, this is a very interesting building. About 5 years ago, I was in Brest with our tour, and this building had a scaffolding over it. And we were invited by a member of the local Jewish community to climb through the scaffold and see that they'd removed the plaster work from this building. They were restoring the building. And they discovered that it had an inscription on the side here in Yiddish and in Polish. Now, this is the house of Jewish entrepreneur, through our research, we discovered, of Menya Rachel Zayantz, who was there in the 1920s. And it housed Abraham Zuckerman's building materials warehouse, which you can see down here. It says cement in Yiddish. The building retains the advertising inscriptions in Yiddish, and the local Jewish community asked the owners of this building if they would leave it uncovered so that it could be a memorial, and thankfully the owners agreed, which is why we now see that in those inscriptions. And this is the house of Chaim Greenstein, who was of Jewish origin. The building housed the Brest branch of the Central Jewish Emigration, the JEAS in Poland, which operated from 1924 to 1939. So there would have been a lot of emigration at that time. It was the interwar period. None of this is visible at the moment. This is all as a result of the research that we have been doing. This is the choral synagogue, or as it once looked, in Brest, but today it looks like this. If you can see here where the arrow is pointing, the structure of the sort of hexagonal building is still there, but it has been wrapped by this more modern structure, and it is a cinema. Now, this building only recently was marked with a plaque. Inside, you can see the original walls. You can see here, this is the arch that you can see on the outside of what was the original building. The rabbi in Brest had worked very hard to enable this plaque to go on the outside of the building. So this cinema now has this plaque on it that says the building housed a large choral synagogue until 1939, and it was built in 1861 and funded by the Jewish community of the city and was renovated in 1976. This is the Hekdesh Synagogue, a very beautiful building, which has a very sad story. It was built in 1886, confiscated by the Nazis, together with the neighboring Jewish hospital, and was used to house wounded soldiers. When the Soviets reclaimed the city, it became a nightclub. Over the decades, it passed from hand to hand, eventually being owned by a private individual and used as an office space. The iconic facade and inside architecture was destroyed by the various occupiers, but the original building is still standing. So in 1923, Jews made up 60% of Brest's population of 60,000. During the interwar years, Brest was a part of Poland. But in 1939, Brest became part of the Soviet Union when Hitler and Stalin divided Poland. And in June 1941, the German army invaded the Soviet Union and Brest fell to German occupation. Between October the 15th and 17th, 1942, the Nazis and their sympathizers shot over 50,000 Jews from Brest and the surrounding district into 11 pits at a site called Bronagora, ending the 600-year-old community. Bronagora is approximately 40 minutes drive north of Brest, the city. So this is what the Brest-Litovsk cemetery looked like. It was established in 1835. It was a well-established cemetery by the time the Nazis invaded. Here's another image. And these images were provided by a contact that we have in Australia. This is the grave of Avram Lezer Shalitsky. Jenny Bush in Australia said, my grandfather's brother Avram Shalitsky is buried there. He died in 1935. My grandmother was a Gewürzmann, and there are lots of them in that cemetery. This is a colorized image of what the cemetery used to look like. But today, this is what it looks like. It is a running track. It is a sports stadium. As you can see at one end, it has been made into a car park. And there is nothing there to say that there is that this is essentially a cemetery. There are still people buried there. Another image, photograph of somebody walking the track, which was a photograph that I took. So how did the cemetery disappear? So we're going to go now to the Second World War, 1939. So here, when Hitler and Stalin carved Poland up and the eastern part of Poland became Soviet Belarus, there was a German-Soviet military parade in Brest-Litovsk on September the 22nd. And here you can see the Brest falling under Soviet control. Operation Barbarossa then happened, the invasion of Nazi Germany into the Soviet Union on the 22nd of June, 1941. And here you can see the Wehrmacht German army near Pruzhany in the Brest region as the invading army comes into Soviet Belarus. This is June in 1941. Now, during that period, this is when the cemetery started to be eroded. Now, there was this man here, Vladimir Gubenko, created this book with a lot of illustrations of eyewitness events that he drew and wrote about. And in his book, we were able to discover a lot of what happened to the cemetery. So here he drew the Cossacks who were serving the Germans, robbing Jewish graves. So this was already a part of the destruction of the cemetery. The Germans cleared part of the cemetery to install sound detectors, you can see here. Now, this area is called the Felix Warburg colony. After the First World War, there were a lot of Jewish orphans. The Jewish community was very destitute. There was a huge amount of poverty. There was a huge amount of destruction. Many Jews had been fighting in the First World War and were killed, hence the orphans, and a lot of the city had been destroyed. And Felix Warburg was the chairman of the American Joint Distribution Committee, and he came to Brest and he saw how much devastation there was and committed funding to build this new area that was called the Felix Warburg colony. I don't know if you can see on here, it says Colonia Felix of Warburg. And the Jewish people were moved into these homes, and there was also an orphanage here. But during the Second World War, the Jews who were living here were killed during Operation Barbarossa, when the Einsatzgruppe and special killing squads came in with the German army, annihilated the Jewish community and turned this area into a prisoner of war camp. Initially it had Soviet soldiers in this prisoner of war camp, and here you can see Vladimir's image of one of these houses. By the time the Soviets reclaimed this area, when they started to win back the territory, it then became a German prisoner of war camp. But the sanitation was so terrible that the Soviet commander ordered the prisoners to go to what was left of the Jewish cemetery, remove the headstones, and use them as paving around the colony. And we then went there. So here's another colony house picture. There's Vladimir's picture. And this is us in 2014, what was left of the colony. It was being demolished. And we found some of the headstones that had been used as paving lying around the site that was set for demolition. And we picked these headstones up and took them to where there were already a collection, which I'm going to show you. So here's another one in that area. Now, according to the City Register of Brest, as of October the 15th, 1942, there were 16,934 Jews residing in the city. Some had already been killed, but the next day that figure was scratched out. So you can see here, the community is no longer there because everybody who was in the ghetto was removed to Bronogora, the massacre site that I was talking about earlier. So what happened to the Matzevot, and when did the Together Plan become involved? So this was the first photograph I saw. Artur sent me this picture in 2013. He was in Brest, he was visiting the community, and he sent me this photograph, which I couldn't understand. And he said that headstones that used to stand in the Brest-Litovsk Jewish cemetery had been returning to the community for several years. And the community didn't really know what to do with them, so they borrowed some space in this area that was part of a heritage area. This is the Brest Fortress. The local municipality said to the local Jewish community, we can give you a little bit of outdoor space under the arches, the arches, which is a storage area of this fortress. And so as more and more headstones appeared, they were put here. But as you can see, they were not put in any order. It was a big mess. And I went to visit Brest in 2014 and took this photograph, which was very depressing and very upsetting. As you can see, there's a lot of rubbish here. There really had been no care. As you can see here, there's some that are stacked up, which you're going to see here. So there was a little bit of order at the front, but the rest had just been dumped. And I said to Artur, that's not okay. These are more photographs of the state of what was being found all over the region. And I said to Artur, we need to do something about this. So we we set a campaign to raise some money so that we could put a fence around this area, so at least these headstones could be sorted out. And so that we would be able to gauge what exactly there was there. Now, while we were there in 2014, we had a phone call from a local construction company. We were with the community, and they said, we are digging some foundations to build a supermarket, and we think we've dug up what looks like some Jewish gravestones. So we went over, and this is what we found. And it was a huge site, and there were headstones everywhere. So we organized to have those headstones picked up and taken over to the fortress. So as I said, we raised some money to install a fence. And as you can see, there is a fence there now. And so then we were able to, with the local community, reorder everything and stack all of the headstones up and really get to sort of grips with really the extent of how many headstones really had been returned. More images here. And yeah, there's the arrow pointing at the fence. And all the time, more and more headstones were coming and having to be piled up in different parts of this area. So as you can see, more photographs here. Now this is an area of what was the cemetery, which is on the outside of the sports stadium. It is a piece of open land which has now been designated as a space where a memorial can be built and will be built. This is the focus of the space that we are now going to talk about, which you'll see a little bit more about in a minute. This is a member of the local Jewish community in Brest, and as you can see, even in this space, there are headstones that can be found there as well. Pieces of headstone or matzevot are being found all the time. This is a fairly recent call that we received. Here you can see a corner of a headstone, little pieces that are all broken pieces of matzevot. And again, we picked them up and put them with all the others. But then there was a disappearance. At the end of 2019, unfortunately, we had lost some involvement with the project for a period of time, and in spite of the fact that we'd done all this work. And Artur called me at the end of 2019 and said, all of the headstones have disappeared. And I said to Artur, how can they disappear? And he said, I don't know. And I said, I'd like you to try and find them, which he did. And he located them to this rather not too pretty warehouse. They had been picked up by the local authorities because they needed to reclaim their space under the arches of the fortress, and they'd moved them to this warehouse on the outskirts of Brest. I flew to Belarus at the beginning of 2020, just before the pandemic, because I wanted to see these headstones and see what condition they were in. So unfortunately, they had not been moved with any care, and they had just been dumped. Some had been broken, and it was a very upsetting moment. These are the photographs that I took when I was there. Somebody taking a photograph of me standing with the headstones. And this was us with the local members of the local municipality, Artur, Elena, who was making a film for us while we were there. And we had a very serious conversation with the municipality to say that we wanted to be able to work with these headstones and try and have an exclusive agreement with the Brest authorities so that we could start a campaign. And that happened. We were able to get some publicity into the Times, into London's, into the UK Times newspaper. There is a lot of media publicity, which can be all found on our website. And we were also able to, well, this was the film that we made while we were there. I'm going to show you the film. At the end, there is an image of a memorial. It's not the memorial that has been decided on, but you will get a real sense of the campaign through this film.
Это женщина, ее звали Хая. Это мужчина, его звали Реувен Дов, его отец Хаим.
Кладбище было в самом большом городе Бресте. Оно начиналось вот от той улочки, она шла эллипсом, до улицы, которая вот за тем домом с зеленой крышей. Она и сейчас есть. И вот эта улица за забором. Здесь находился после окончания Второй мировой войны лагерь немецких военнопленных. И именно Мацеевы с кладбища были вымощены улица и площадка, где находился этот лагерь. Там они потом были найдены и закопаны прямо при устройстве улицы, вот этой проезжей части ее. И там они были найдены и перевезены в крепость, где и хранились.
Oh, apologies. I don't know what happened there. Hold on. I'll try and move it forward. Hold on.
Кладбище было в самом большом городе Бресте. Оно начиналось вот от той улочки, она шла эллипсом, до улицы, которая вот за тем домом с зеленой крышей. Она и сейчас есть. И вот эта улица за забором. Здесь находился после окончания Второй мировой войны лагерь немецких военнопленных. И именно Мацеевы с кладбища были вымощены улица и площадка, где находился этот лагерь. Там они потом были найдены и закопаны прямо при устройстве улицы, вот этой проезжей части ее. И там они были найдены и перевезены в крепость, где и хранились.
Вот эти памятники, которые вот мы сейчас видим, вот это на самом деле то, что осталось от этих людей, которые были похоронены там на кладбище. Там похоронены несколько десятков тысяч человек, которые мы не знаем вообще, кто они. У нас нету списка, мы вообще ничего не знаем. Единственный память, которая осталась от них, это само кладбище и вот эти памятники, которые здесь находятся. Через это мы можем делать для них что-то. Без этого, к сожалению, и неизвестно, что это вообще кладбище и что там кто-то вообще похоронен. Поэтому надо обязательно их вернуть на место вот кладбища. Семья Соловейчик, они были в городе Брест где-то приблизительно 60 лет. Вот эта семья очень известная в том плане талмудический, учение Тора. Во всех ешивах на сегодняшний день учится их литература, их книги. И вот если вы скажете в Израиле Бриск, и Раб Хаим Соловейчик, Раб Йосеф Дов Соловейчик, и все знают об этой раввине.
Эти памятники использовались на то, чтобы мастить улицы, дворы. И во многих местах, даже в центре города, лежали эти плиты в качестве тротуара. Для меня важно, чтобы было куда прийти, и важно найти то место, где лежат мои близкие, мои родные. К сожалению, это место представляет собой пустырь, поэтому строительство лапидария, я думаю, что это очень важная вещь. И это необходимо совершенно для людей, для памяти о них.
The community here was destroyed in the Second World War. They were recently discovered over the last 15 to 20 years, and they're now in a storage space, and there is hope that we can somehow create a memorial here, which will give voice not only to that lost community, but to the community that is here today.
There is no future without the past, and without the past we can't build a better community. It's important not just for the present generations, it's important to preserve for the future generations, because this is our heritage and this is our story. We don't realize it now, but the future generations will be grateful for keeping this history alive.
На территории бывшего кладбища, где после войны был сделан стадион, предполагается разместить зеленую зону, сквер, такую мемориальную памятную зону, где будет размещаться сам лапидарий, то есть некая стена, может быть, в виде круга, полукруга, значит, где будет экспозиция мацев. И, значит, на оси вот этого лапидария планируется сделать огель, значит, некую капличку такую, значит, где можно даже будет оставлять записки, либо где будет информация о тех знаменитых евреев, которые были похоронены на этом кладбище.
So that was the film that we made in 2020. And then going back to the pharmacy that I spoke about at the beginning, we had by then made contact with the grandson of Fania Greinberg, who was the pharmacist. And he lives in America, and he said that he would partner with us on the project, which was very exciting. And through him, we were able to then start working again with the headstones, as you can see, putting them into some sort of sense of order. Now, Artur, if you're there, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yes, hi everyone. Yeah, it's been a very, very difficult but important task to sort all the headstones in the warehouse. You saw the conditions of the headstones that Deborah showed you in the previous photos. And me and the team of volunteers, it was 6 of us, it took us almost a week plus to sort, probably would say over 3,000 different size pieces of headstones. Some of the whole headstones, some of them are pieces. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to sort them out to see if there are headstones with visible reading on it, with visible writing on it, so we could read. So we were putting those aside, and we were also keeping the little pieces as well for the future memorial, because we understood that all of the headstones have to go back and be a part of the memorial. But you'll see the design that was agreed on by now. So some of the headstones would be open to the public to read. Some of them are gonna be implemented into the design of into the actual memorial. But it was a very, very important job for us. You can see here a team, and one of the team members, he's professional in reading the headstones, and he was helping us as well to identify some of the headstones, to identify whether the writing is visible and readable. And you could see on the photos that we've been putting some of the headstones on the pallets, and we were sorting them and we were numbering them. And we have taken a photo of each headstone in order to catalog them. and for the future investigation and the future reading. And during that period of time, we also sort of our work and our activity got to the Republican TV channel, which was a TV piece on us working with the headstones and on the Brest Litovsk memorial, which we're going to show you now, from which you can see how hot, and this is both meaning it was extremely hot in the warehouse. It was, I think, plus 35 degrees at that time in Brest. And obviously there was nowhere air conditioning in the warehouse, and we had to work for a week in this extremely hot conditions, which you will see. But it was on top of being a very difficult job, it was a very pleasant job, because we knew we were doing the future.
Спустя 80 лет забвения в Бресте началось строительство лапидария. Экспозиция старинной письменности на камне появится на месте старинного еврейского кладбища, снесенного в начале Великой Отечественной войны.
נפטר י"ב מנחם אב, תר"ל ד', לפרט קטן, תהיה נפשו צרורה בצרור החיים.
Специалисты изучают, документируют и фотографируют надгробия, около 1000 мацев, предположительно с одного некрополя. В начале войны, когда Брест был оккупирован, фашисты расправлялись не только с евреями, но и с их памятью. Самое старое и большое кладбище в городе разграблено, а потом вовсе стерто с лица земли. Надмогильные плиты использовали для мощения улиц. Спустя много лет их обнаружили и передали представителям общины. С инициативой вернуть мацевы на место и построить мемориал выступила общественность и потомки евреев Бреста.
Уничтожение кладбищ, в том числе нацистами во время Холокоста, это было обычной тематикой. И, к сожалению, долгие годы мы не смогли восстановить ту справедливость и вернуть камни, и вернуть кладбище в какой-то первозданный вид. Поэтому на сегодняшний день есть решение таких проблем. Это возможность строительства мемориала, который будет посвящен не только людям, которые похоронены на этом кладбище, но и всему наследию нашей страны, потому что еврейское наследие Беларуси – это часть наследия всей Беларуси.
Это будет первый лапидарий в стране. Проект в 3 этапа. После изучения надписи займутся дизайном будущего комплекса. Концепцию согласуют с еврейской общиной и городскими властями. Чтобы завершить работы, специалистам понадобится около 3 лет.
Yeah, that's a little piece. So, I mean, what I want to say is those headstones, they went from the pain to pain, from pain to pain through 80 years, and not just by when there was a destruction of the cemetery by Nazis, by Soviets, and then when the headstones were used for different purposes and not for the actual purpose of them being in the cemetery. Then from the sort of collection and storing them at the one side, and then transportation, and then pain again. So for us, it was a very important task, and it was quite meaningful to put the end to the sort of a painful wandering of those headstones, and to just make sure that they're going to be lying in one space. They're going to be sorted. As mentioned, we had been taking photos of each readable headstone. We're numbering them so people could find them later on at the site of the memorial. And for the cataloging reasons, we asked our our partners in Poland, the Foundation for Documentation of Jewish Cemeteries in Poland. Why in Poland? Because Brest Litovsk used to be in Poland, and they kindly agreed to help us to catalog them, to put the information of each headstone on their website, where people can surf through and try to find the information and the photos. I mean, this is a temporary measure. The catalog is going to be on the website of the foundation until we get the memorial done, and then we're going to be putting it on a sort of a much more sort of easy readable resource. And we now have a volunteer person in Israel who is helping us to detail each headstone, to actually investigate each headstone and writing on it, and a person about whom it's written headstone. So it will be much more detailed and more interesting, I would say, information about each headstone in the future. So we are hoping that it will give an opportunity to the people, of course, with the headstones that are left, because many of the headstones were destroyed and many of them were broken into the pieces. They will obviously go back to the cemetery. They'll be put to rest by our team, but it will sort of actually be available to the public and people will be able to read. And fortunately, and I know that that's not everybody who will find their ancestors' headstones, but some of the people would be able to find and actually match the information catalog to the headstone and visit the site and see the remaining and the headstones that have been remained with the writing on it of possibly their relatives. And I'll hand back to Deborah, and she will tell you more about the actual site and the design of the future memorial.
Thanks, Artur. So as it says, the site and the design. So this is a drone shot of the running track, as you can see here. And this area at the end is the area that has been designated for the site of the memorial. And this is another way to look at it. So an aerial shot from Google. So as you can see here, I've drawn a red line around the area that is going to be where the memorial will stand. So the actual memorial, this is a render by the designer who is in Texas, Brad Goldberg, which has been approved. And this is another view of what it will look like. And as you can see, those pieces that will be the larger fully formed pieces will stand on what is a mound. We cannot dig down into the ground because it is still essentially a cemetery. So all the land will be built up. And on the walls here, along the tops of the walls is where the smaller pieces will be incorporated. And here is a sort of looking down shot of what it will look like. As you can see, there's some benches for some quiet introspection, and there will be a sort of a park and forested area around it. And what Brad Goldberg has said is for him it is like two arms, it's sort of like a hug, bringing these headstones home, and they will all be in different angles, so it won't be laid out as if it was a cemetery. It will be all looking in different directions. How does the memorial play a pivotal role in Jewish history? Well, it will put the cemetery back on the map because, as I said before, nobody knows it's a cemetery at the moment. It will give the functioning community a place to commemorate those who've gone before them. It will give Jews from Brest living in the diaspora a place to visit in memory of their ancestors. It will play a major part on the heritage route to tell the story of the Jews from Brest. It restores history and memory, and it plays a vital role in Holocaust education and helps to understand the hidden history of the suffering of the Russian, Soviet, East European Jews. How will it support the functioning Jewish community in Brest? Well, going back to the Hekdesh synagogue that I spoke of earlier, they now are back in that building. They reclaimed that building. It is now a functioning synagogue. As we said, the ornate architecture was stripped, but it is now, the building is theirs. And the Brest Cemetery Memorial will give the community a place to commemorate those who went before them. It will be restorative. It will put them on the map, and it will connect them to the wider world. And most of all, it will give them hope. So the road so far and the road ahead, as I've mentioned, there have been a lot of articles in the media, and though all of those articles can be found through the campaign page, and I'm going to send you a link to those. Well, Dora will send you a link to those tomorrow. So far, we have secured the exclusive agreement to do the design and build a memorial. That was signed in 2021. And the deadline to deliver on that is by the end of this year. So this year is a big year for us. We have sorted all of the headstones. That was all completed, as Artur said. We've done all the photography. We've translated as much as we can from the pieces, and the catalogue is created, as we said. The design of the memorial was commissioned and completed in 2023. The design has now been approved by the Brest authorities. That happened last year, and the building application has been submitted. So that's where we're at with the applications. Almost 40% of the funds has been raised so far. And this is where we're at now. We are now running a campaign to locate people with ancestral connections to Brest, which is one of the reasons we're giving talks. And thank you to Kesha for this opportunity. We are launching a crowdfunding campaign in May of this year. So we're building our crowd at the moment. And we're hoping that if all goes to plan, we will start with construction late spring, early summer. What can you do to help? Well, you can make a donation. You can book in to have a conversation with us to learn more. We'd love to hear from you. You can definitely be part of our crowdfunding campaign, which is going to be very exciting. You're very welcome to host an event, and we can provide details on that. You can subscribe to receive the campaign updates once the building work starts. And we invite you to come on the journey, because we know that we can do this if we will work together. Now, we're going to show you our campaign film. So sit back and here we go.
"80 years after the destruction of the Brest-Litovsk Jewish cemetery,
Евреи всегда чтили память предков. И когда нет кладбища, мы решили, что должен быть хотя бы памятный знак или памятное место, которое бы рассказывало потомкам нашим о том, что там лежат их предки, которые жили, работали, трудились и молились в этом городе.
between 1941 and 1945, as the Jews confronted their tragic destiny, their hallowed cemetery was systematically dismantled, and every vestige of Jewish existence was mercilessly erased. Years after the war, a local Brest artist named Vladimir Gubenko meticulously documented the horrifying destruction through the first-hand accounts and eyewitness testimonies, as Jews were being forcibly gathered and taken to pre-dug pits to be executed by gunfire. The Germans worked diligently, clearing the Jewish cemetery to install sound detectors as part of their efforts to defend against Soviet air raids. In 1945, gravestones were forcibly removed from the Jewish cemetery and repurposed as paving material to address sanitary and hygiene concerns at the German prisoner of war camp on Minskaya Street. By 1946, the Jewish cemetery had transformed so dramatically that it had become utterly unrecognizable.
У нас еврейское кладбище, Брестское кладбище, похоронены более 50 тысяч евреев. Там похоронены из раввины Соловейчики и еще раввины, которые были здесь сотни лет.
Кладбище – это одно из первых мест, которые евреи, покупали землю под них. Они приезжали на новое место, они покупали земли для синагоги и для кладбища. лапидарий – это прежде всего сохранение памяти о тех людях. Это очень важная вещь. Яд Вашем, так и называется, это память, это сохранить имя. У нас сказано, что мертвые уже ничем не могут отблагодарить. Поэтому то, что мы делаем для мертвых, оно бесценно. Я это делаю, потому что это делаю, не рассчитывая на какие-то плюшки и бонусы. Я это делаю бескорыстно.
This memorial will be a testament to Brest's rich Jewish heritage. It will acknowledge and honor the community that was so brutally extinguished and educate visitors about Brest's vibrant Jewish community of the past and the present.
I think that, first of all, this is a living memorial. In essence, these stones are coming back home to a place where they have been displaced. And this embrace will contain 600 plus or minus standing headstones on top of a 2-meter high mound that's like a pregnant shape of earth. On top of the embrace walls are many of the fragments, many of the almost 3,000 fragments of stone, some that have writing on them, Hebrew, some of them are blank and just broken, but they will be used to construct the top of the wall where people can run their hands and feel these stones as they're walking past. There's a Hebrew phrase called tikkun olam, which means in today's world, the repair of the world. And I would like to suggest that those two, that phraseology would stand to represent that which we are trying to accomplish with this work.
This incredible project is now a reality through the unwavering support and belief of Steven Greinberg and the Illuminate Foundation.
Надо участвовать финансово, это очень большие затраты, суммы, надо помочь. Это еврейская история, это еврейская традиция, это наши предки, и надо делать все возможности, чтобы восстановить это кладбище.
We're well on our way to meeting our fundraising goal, but we can't do it without your support. Together, we will bring these headstones home. Please make your donation today.
So that's our campaign film. And just to say that building a heritage trail, to go back to our building of our heritage trail, where we'll be able to signpost Jewish tangible and intangible heritage and significant memorials such as this one, will enable Jews and non-Jews in Belarus to engage in dialogue around Belarusian Jewish history. And it will enable Belarus to tell its own story. And we believe that this is the route to revival. So we invite you to support and join our crowd for the campaign to build the Brest-Litovsk Jewish Cemetery Memorial. And we also invite you to ask us any questions. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah and Artur, for sharing with us this amazing work that you are doing. It's really incredible just to watch and kind of, I don't know, what I thought about is that when we walk around and we look for heritage or we kind of search for our own ancestry in different places, that it's not to take it for granted, that it's just there, that it's incredible to see that you are making it to be there. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to read some questions, and just to tell all of you, like Deborah mentioned earlier, tomorrow we will send out a follow-up email in which you will receive also the recording of this talk and also further resources from the Together Plan, articles, ways to get in touch with them, and everything relevant will be in your email tomorrow. So I'm just going to read. Thank you, first of all, also everyone who shared. A lot of people are writing about their own ancestry, that they have connections to Belarus, to Minsk, to Brest, to different places. So thank you everyone for writing that. I'm going to now read the questions, the ones that actually include questions. So there's a comment and question from David, who writes that I was thrilled last year to find my great-grandmother's headstone in this database, the one that you showed about the headstones. Would of course be glad to contribute biographical context from whoever is investigating or compiling. And if you could, if there is a way to get in touch with the Israeli researcher who compiles information about the headstones.
Yeah, I just read that. That's David. Be in touch with us. I'll put, Dora's going to connect you to us, but I'll put my contact details in here as well. But that's very exciting to sort of hear that you found your great-great-grandmother's headstone in the database. I mean, that's really moving for me just to read that. So yes, very happy to connect anybody who wants to be connected.
Thank you. Another question from Marjorie. Are you concerned about security so that it's not desecrated again?
Artur, do you want to answer that one? That's your part of the project.
Well, first of all, that's going to be under the government's watch, and it will be public memorial. And in Belarus, fortunately, compared to other Western and some of the Eastern European countries, the memorials are not being vandalized for the, I can't remember when was the last time, probably around 10 years ago when the memorial was vandalized. And currently the level of anti-Semitism in Belarus is quite low. And I saw one of the questions was how was Lukashenko's government response to the memorial. As you heard from the presentation, we have an agreement with the local municipality and with the government, and they're taking part in this memorial. They're helping us with all the documentations and paperwork and permissions, as well as they're going to be doing the part of the landscaping around the memorial. So that's the task. And security would be on the shoulders of the government.
Thank you. The next question is from Lynn. I'm not sure if my grandparents are actually from Minsk or a shtetl outside of Minsk. Is there a way to try and research this? So I thought that maybe this is a good way to introduce your genealogy service that might be relevant to others as well.
Yes, I will put a link in a minute, but it's also on our website, and I'll include that in our the information I give to you, Dora. We have an archive search service, and we can help people find records. There is an inquiry form on our website, so you can submit what you're looking for, and we can give you guidance on that, and then we can also give you a quote if there is, if we feel that there is enough information to do the searching for you, and we've had a lot of success with that service.
Thank you. A question from Catherine. I am the family historian. My family left the Brisk in the 1870s. Do you have a document for me to circulate to my extended family?
Hi, Catherine. I know Catherine. When you say document, what do you mean? There's all sorts of things. Artur knows Catherine as well.
Just something that I can send out to the family to tell them what you're doing.
Oh,
and
yes.
Maybe raise some funds or get a group to go out there when you have the opening.
100%. Absolutely. Well, definitely, Catherine, I will definitely, I'm going to build you into the campaign. You're part of the crowd, 100%, you and your family. Yes, I can send you all sorts of information. Not a problem at all. With pleasure.
We'll speak. We'll do lunch.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Thank you so much. There was a question about how many Jews live in Brest today.
Artur, do you want to answer that one?
Well, I mean, it's a difficult one because, as we know, and again, this is from the genealogical and archive sort of information and experience. Not a lot of Jews in the past have sort of registered as a Jews, and they were registering in one place, living in another place. Well, basically, according to the last census, which took place, I believe, almost 10 years ago, there's been around 15,000 Jews officially, and unofficially, we reckon there's around 50,000 Jews in Belarus, in the whole of Belarus, which I think are more. I mean, I think they're more. Talking about the land of the Pale of Settlement, I think every probably fourth person has Jewish roots, or maybe every third has the Jewish roots. Brest currently, I think it's 1,000+ community of a different. So some go to the shul, some of the members of the community, some not, just identify them as they called sort of a social non-religious Jews. But I think there's around sort of 1,000+ Jews living in Brest now, which I think are more because people haven't done proper research of their past, and if they do, they will have a Jewish. Well, they'll have a Jewish roots.
Thank you. How does the Russian-Ukrainian conflict affect your work, if at all?
Well, I mean, locally, in terms of working in Belarus, it doesn't affect sort of strategy. It doesn't affect day-to-day action. It doesn't affect the cooperation with the municipality. So on the ground, on the local level, it doesn't affect our work, but it does globally, as it affects everyone. I'm sure Deborah can vouch for the west of our work and tell you more how it affects.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that actually everything we do is through the lens of cultural heritage. So we are a non-political organization, and we make sure that everything is through the cultural heritage lens. The Belarus authorities are very supportive of the work that we do. I actually had a meeting at the Belarus embassy in London when we decided we were going to work on the Jewish cultural heritage route in Belarus, and said to them that, you know, this is what we're doing, and we want you to be a stakeholder because this is your country and it's your story. And they were supportive, and they have been supportive of, you know, giving us the permission to build the memorial. They help. I mean, I have to say, interestingly, there is you know, we've had the permission to use the land. They've approved the design. They're working very closely with our tour and our team on the ground. So I have to say that everything is a very positive in that regard.
The only one thing that does affect a lot is a problem of visitors and tourists and travelers to Belarus. It did affect that people can't travel. I think at this stage, well, there's a lot of Israelis who travel to Belarus, and they do, who have connections to the country, and their Minister of Foreign Affairs is not sort of putting any red alarm on Belarus. And allowing to travel. I mean, now with things happening in Israel, it became more difficult because of all the sort of planes and flights cut off and etc. But before that, there was a lot of Israelis traveling, and unfortunately, sort of other European countries or America were banned on traveling by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and were putting in sort of a red alert and like a warning of dangers to travel to Belarus. But to the surprise of few people who do travel to Belarus from the United States or Britain or European countries, they're very surprised that there is no danger, that there's like, you know, rabbis are walking around the cities and younger kids and foreigners, and no one's being hostage to, no one's being persecuted or anything else. So on a opposite to what is being said in the West. And we all know that this is all sort of part of the, Cold War between the West and the East. So yeah, that's an obvious and effect that we feel that there's much less tourists coming to the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't see now more questions, but I'm sure that there will be later. So yes, Deborah.
I just wanted to not acknowledge two comments. One is
yes,
from Barbara Sloan, who actually I had a very great conversation with earlier today, who said my maternal grandparents are from the Brest area. We had a very interesting conversation, and I told her about the talk, so thank you for coming. And I think she also said it was very significant about this project is very significant to what's going on right now in the world with what's going on in Israel. And I have to stress that is absolutely right. It is really important that we bring the history, the hidden history of the suffering of the Jews of Belarus into the light. That is our Holocaust education program. It was very suppressed. Everything was all the Jewish stories, the stories of Jewish suffering was suppressed after the Second World War in the Soviet Union. And that makes it very easy to, create propaganda and, create revisionist history. And so for us, it has become increasingly more important to do this project because it's important to know the real history. And this is telling the story and its real history, and it needs to be known. So I just wanted to make that point, but also I wanted to also acknowledge Alan Guess's comment, who is in Denver and was a friend of Jack Greinberg. So I just wanted to say hello to Alan Guess and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deborah, for doing that as well. So thank you everyone for being here. As I told you, I will send you all the information tomorrow. So you will receive the recording and the follow-up resources and articles and ways to get in touch with Deborah and Arthur. So we hope there will be some meaningful connections made by that. And those of you who are interested in this region, I just want to let you know that our next talk this Thursday will be about the Jewish community of Vilnius. So you're all welcome to sign up to that. We hope to see some of you there. And thank you again, Deborah and Arthur, for the wonderful work you're doing and for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having us, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day or night for those in Europe and in Israel.
Thank you also I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.